Hello, my dear students. Hope you are all fine. So, in our course of discussion, today we are discussing about the Indian Constitution. But before that, we must understand the term Constitution. What is a Constitution? See, I have tried to write a definition of the Constitution. What are the features it covers? If you know it, then naturally you can make the definition. The definition may vary person to person. You may write the definition of constitution many ways, but certain features it must contain. So what are those features? Let us find out. I have written here, a constitution is a set of rules. So that is the first feature we are getting, that a constitution is a book which contains a set of rules and regulations. What are those rules and regulations which are contained in the constitution of a country? In general, any country's constitution will contain a set of rules and regulations by which the administration of a country runs. So, we have got the idea that the rules, those rules are there in the constitution by which the administration of a democratic government runs. All of us we know that at the present day, all the democratic governments has got multi-functions. Various types of functions are there of a democratic government. We know all the democratic government has basically three organs: legislative, executive and judiciary. The legislative body has got its own functions. Say for example, if we talk about the Indian Parliament, which is called the central legislature, it has got many functions. It controls, guides and informs the government. Now, how the parliament will work, how the parliament will guide, how it will control the government, all those instructions are clearly written in the constitution. So that way the functions of the legislative body is clearly written in the constitution. Next to the legislative body there is executive body. In our country we find various types of executives. One may be formal executive, say for example the President of India. There is real executive, the Prime Minister of India. There is political executive, non-political executive. Who are the political executives? The elected representatives are called the political executive. Then who are the non-political executive? The government high officials are called non-political executive. So all these bodies form the executive body of the government. Now each and everyone has got different role to play. The President has got his role to play. The Prime Minister has got different functions. The non-political executives, the bureaucrats, have their own responsibilities. So all those responsibilities of the executive body are clearly explained in the constitution. The third organ of a democratic government, what is that? The judiciary, Supreme Court, high courts, then various lower level courts, all those are there in our country. So each and every level of the judiciary body has got their own functions, and those are clearly written in the constitution. So that's why we are saying a constitution is a book where a set of rules are written by which the administration of a country runs. Secondly, I have written another feature, sets certain ideals. Very important. The constitution of a democratic government sets certain ideals. For whom the ideals are set? For the country, for the people of the country, the ideals are set. Okay, for example, if we take the example, means for our country's constitution, the constitution of India, certain ideals are set over there. And those are nicely written in the first page of the constitution, that is called the preamble of the constitution. that India is a sovereign, socialist, democratic, secular, republic country. So, these are the certain ideals set by the constitution for our country. So, in this manner, every country's constitution set certain ideals for that country, the people of that country. Then I have written ensures fundamental rights, ensures fundamental rights. We know that in our constitution, one important part is there of the Indian constitution, that is fundamental right. The incorporation of fundamental rights in the Indian constitution makes it much worthy, because it is impossible for a citizen to survive without the fundamental rights. And there is another option, there is another feature within these fundamental rights, that right to constitutional remedies. What does it mean? It means that if one's rights are being violated, if my rights are violated, if your rights are violated, you can claim those by going to the court. You can claim your fundamental rights by going to the court. You can file case against the individual or the government or the organization, whoever has violated your fundamental rights. So, this is one of the most important feature of any country's constitution. Now see, we have got certain features of the constitution which you accumulate, you will get the definition. So, what are those features? A constitution is a set of rules by which the administration of a country runs, also sets certain ideals and ensures fundamental rights. You can include more features here. Now let us come back to our country's constitution. Actually, long back in the year 1934, Indian National Congress demanded for the formation of Constituent Assembly. In the year 1934, you have to remember this. This one can be a short question also for you. What is that? In 1934, Indian National Congress demanded for the formation of the Constituent Assembly. Now, what is this Constituent Assembly? What is this Constituent Assembly? Constituent Assembly is the organization that framed the Indian Constitution. One of the gigantic tasks, one of the most important task was performed by the Constituent Assembly. Now, in 1934, long back, you can write down a short question from here. When did the Indian National Congress demand for the formation of the Constituent Assembly? This one can be a short question for you. So, what is the answer? The answer is 1934, much before the independence. Now, why did they demand for the formation of Constituent Assembly? Actually, when Indian National Congress was formed in 1885, and gradually they progressed towards the independence, they formed certain national movements, they accumulated opinions of the people. Accordingly, they desired that more and more Indians should be included in the administration. So, by the year 1934, the feature was like that, there must be more number of people in the administration, because only the Indian representatives will know the problem of the Indians, and they must come from different regions of the country. They must belong to different communities, religion, caste. Accordingly, there was election for the members of the Constituent Assembly, and the members were selected. Around 300 members were there in the Constituent Assembly, and definitely they were chosen from various parts of the country, as well as they belong to different communities of the society. So, this organization, the Constituent Assembly, framed the Constitution for India, and specifically if we want to say, the drafting committee, we have to remember it, drafting committee, the drafting committee, which is a smaller organization within the Constituent Assembly, actually they framed the Constitution of India. And when the task was started long back, December 1946, and when it was ended on 26th November 1950. Such a long period of time was taken by the Constituent Assembly to frame the Constitution of India. The question is, why did the Constituent Assembly take such a long period of time to write the Indian Constitution? Actually, they intended to incorporate all the best ideals from Constitution of different countries. That's why they have collected the Constitution from various parts of the world, the Constitution of America, Constitution of England, Russia, China, France. So, various countries' constitutions were collected by them. They have gone through in detail, they have studied those and collected the best ideals, best articles, and they set those articles according to the Indian environment and incorporated in the Indian Constitution. That is the reason it took such a long period of time, from December 1946 to 26th November 1950. Now, why this 26th November 1950? Why this special date? Yes, here is another short question for you. You should write down, when did the Constituent Assembly, you can write down this question, when did the Constituent Assembly adopted the Indian Constitution? When did the Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution? So, the answer is 26th November 1949. 1949 actually. Such a long period of time was taken by the Constituent Assembly for framing the Constitution, and ultimately on 26th November 1949 the Constitution was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. Means we have taken a lot of time, we have framed the world's biggest constitution, world's most complicated constitution, and we are accepting it. Now, another question here, when did the Constitution of India, came into force or effect? And the answer is 26th January 1950. This is also very important. This date is very, very important. You must write down this short question. When did the Constitution of India came into force, came into effect? And the date is 26th January 1950. And the earlier one, 26th November 1949, the Constituent Assembly adopted the Indian constitution. After that, signing of the dignitaries, the president, the prime minister and the other dignitaries of the Constituent Assembly, they signed in the constitution, and from 26 January 1950 the constitution came into force. Means, what does it mean that the constitution of India came into force? It also means that the administration of India started running according to the constitution from this very date, from this particular date, 26 January 1950. Of course, we have studied in history the of 26 January. It was started long back. Hope you can recall. What was the importance of 26 January? Can you tell? Of course, you can tell. You know, we have studied in history, no? What is that importance? Actually, much before the independence, this 26 January was celebrated at Independence Day, because the people decided, our nation builders decided that till we get Purna Swaraj, means complete independence, we must keep on celebrating 26th January as the Independence Day. And that tradition continued till the independence. And then when we got the independence on 15th August, we started celebrating 15th August as the Independence Day, and 26th January became our Republic Day, one of the most important day for all the Indians. So, the importance of this date, we must remember that on this very day, the Constitution of India came into force. Means, according to the Indian Constitution, the administration of our country started running from this particular date. Hope you have got the point. Now, we must know about some important members of the Constituent Assembly. This is another important question. You please write down in your copy. It will be helpful for your exam. Who was the temporary chairperson of the Constituent Assembly? Who was the temporary chairperson of the Constituent Assembly? Sachidananda Sinha. Sachidananda Sinha, this name you must remember. He was the temporary chairperson of the Constituent Assembly, the body which framed the Indian Constitution. Now, another important question you should write: who was the President of the Constituent Assembly? Who was the President of the Constituent Assembly? Who was the President of the Constituent Assembly? Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the President of the Constituent Assembly. Now, another important question you should write down: some prominent members of the Constituent Assembly. Name some. You can write down this question also. Name some prominent members of the Constituent Assembly. Who are those? Of course, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, then B.R. Ambedkar, then B.N. Rao, then Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Sarojini Naidu, then Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, Maulana Azad, so like that some eminent members were there in the Constituent Assembly. They have given their best ideas, thoughts which had enriched the Constitution. As I told you, they collected the constitutions from various countries and gone through those. They have studied those extensively, and the best ideals were taken from there, and according to the Indian environment, Indian political socio-economic system, they have adjusted those, they have modified those and incorporated in the Indian Constitution. So, Indian Constitution became world's lengthiest constitution, one of the most complicated constitution also we can say. So, you can write down this question, name some prominent members of the Constituent Assembly. Who are some prominent members of the Constituent Assembly? Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, of course you know. Here is another short question. Who is called the father of the Indian Constitution? All of you know the answer, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. His role, his contribution, we can never forget regarding the framing of the Indian Constitution. That is the reason he is also called the father of the Indian Constitution. The drafting committee was headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Actually, he monitored the total matter, the framing of the Indian Constitution. Then B.N. Rao, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. One important personality for our nation building. You know, when our country got the independence, there were many princely states, and Sardar Patel took the initiative to include all those princely states with the Indian Union. Then Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Sarojini Naidu, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, Maulana Azad. So like that, some prominent members were there in the Constituent Assembly. These are some important questions for you from this chapter. Next we shall find out one case study that is discussed in our chapter, the case study of Nepal. Case study of Nepal, which is our adjacent neighboring country. Nepal is a small country, a democratic country which is very close to us. It is situated on the northern side of India. Actually, there was monarchy for a long period of time. Then there was struggle, people struggle for a long period of time. Long period of time there was people struggle. In 1990, democracy was established because people demanded that instead of monarchy there should be democracy, and it lasted for 12 years till 2002. After that, King Gyanendra took over the charge, and it continued in this manner. A democratically established government was thrown away by King Gyanendra, and that's why there was uprising among the people that how come a democratically established government can be removed by the king. So people continued struggling against this system. There was signing of the 12 points along with the Maoist, the terrorist group, and in 2006 people's demand was raised to its peak for democracy. By 2006, people's uprising was at its peak. People demanded that there must be a re-establishment of democracy in Nepal, and in 2007 they adopted an interim constitution. Actually, Nepal had a constitution, but that did not reflect true democratic ideas, concepts, as we see in our country. The Constitution of India reflects the ideas of democracy, the sense of people's power. But the earlier constitution in Nepal was completely controlled by the monarchy. So there was no effect of such democratic thoughts and ideas. That's why people demanded for the framing of another constitution. Accordingly, in 2007 they adopted one interim constitution. So that is the fact about Nepal, and it shows that for a democratic country how important the constitution is. Now let us see what are the purposes served by the constitution for a country. Actually, why do we need a constitution? Purpose of a constitution. This one can be a broad question for you. The first important thing we can say, it set certain ideals. For example, if we talk about our country India, in the preamble itself, those words which are written bold, that is, India is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. These words are written in bold in the preamble of the Indian Constitution, and these shows the nature of the country. And some other important ideals are set by the Constitution: equality, justice, fraternity, liberty. These are the thoughts, ideas are incorporated in the preamble itself. So that is one of the most important purpose of the constitution. A constitution of a country sets certain ideals for the country, for the citizens of the country. So that is the most important reason why a democratic country needs a constitution. The second is define the nature of the country. Define the nature of the country. As we said earlier, these words sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic, these are the words which defines the nature of the country. What type of country India is? These words are enough to explain. Then, to control and guide the government from misusing power. All of us we know that a democratic country is formed by the basis of majority. By means of universal adult franchise system, a democratic government is elected. Any political party who gets the majority number of seats, they will form the government. But that does not mean that they can do anything and everything whatever they like. No. They have to run the administration according to the constitution. So it is written, the constitution controls and guides the government so that the government cannot misuse its power by means of majority. Another important function is avoid unhealthy situation. Avoid unhealthy situation. Nowadays, due to the extensive communication system, the expansion of communication system in almost all the countries, there are people belong to different communities, caste, religion. So there is intermingling of various communities within a country. And it is quite obvious that one or the other community will form the majority number of people, majority number of population in that country. Now, if by means of majority a particular community dominates the other minority groups, then there will be unhealthy situation. And such kind of unhealthy situation is totally against the development of the nation. So, constitution always tries to avoid such unhealthy situation in a democratic country. Then, another important thing, it also saves us from ourselves. Constitution saves us from ourselves. Does it sound something odd that constitution saves us from ourselves? What do you want to mean by this? Actually, it may happen that by means of majority, any particular community can frame certain ideals, rules, articles of the constitution which will favor particularly that community, which will be in favor of a particular group, whereas it may harm the other sections of the society. So, that article cannot be helpful for all the sections of the society. That is why the constitution has set certain rules that how the articles, norms or rules will be framed so that maximum number of people will get the benefit. Maximum population will get the benefit from the new rules and regulations. So, that is called to save us from ourselves. We may go sometimes in arbitrary manner, just thinking about our own benefit, and accordingly by means of majority we can frame certain rules which will benefit a certain sections of the society, whereas that may be harmful for the other sections, other community. So, there is prohibition by the constitution from such activities. So, these are the purposes served by a constitution. So, we have written some points. If you expand those little bit, for every point if you write 1 or 2 sentences, you will get a nice answer. This one can be an important broad question for your exam, that what are the purposes served by a constitution. In general, we are not talking about only our country's constitution. For every country, a constitution serves certain purposes. So, we have discussed those points here. Now, we shall see the important features of the Indian constitution. There are very interesting features of the Indian constitution which has made it the unique in one sense. The Indian constitution is unique in the world. So, what are those key features? We shall find out now. Key features of the Indian constitution. The first one, we would like to say, the longest and most complicated constitution. Indian constitution is the world's largest constitution and most complicated constitution. Until now, our constitution has been amended more than 100 times. It came into force on 26th January 1950, all of you know. From that date onwards, till now, till 2020, many a time, means more than 100 times, the constitution has been amended. And what is this amendment procedure? Amendment means changing of the constitution. Certain articles are there in the constitution which become invalid because of the changing pattern of the socio-economic and political system. Those articles may be applicable for a particular period of time when it was framed, or the earlier period. But later on it was found that such articles, such laws has no connection with the running system, the ongoing system of politics or economy or society. So, it was necessary to change that article, and accordingly it continued. Especially one amendment, that is 42nd amendment of the Indian constitution, by which major changes of the Indian constitution was taken place. That is why it is also called that 42nd amendment itself is a mini constitution, because many changes took place by that amendment. You have to remember this, that 42nd amendment, one of the most important amendment of the Indian constitution. So, accordingly, even in the later period also, many amendments have taken place, and the constitution became more and more complicated, and it is the longest one. The second important feature is federalism. Federalism. What is federalism? We call India a federal country. Actually, a system of governance where there is more than one level of government, it is called a federal country. You take the example of our country. We find various levels of government here. In New Delhi, there is central government which looks after the total administration. The whole country's administration is controlled by the central government. There are state governments in all the states. There is administrative authority in all the union territories. Then at the third level there is local government. There is rural local government, Panchayati Raj system. In Panchayati Raj system there are three levels further you know. That is Gram Panchayat, Panchayat Samiti, Jila Parishad. In urban areas, again there are various levels, municipality, municipal corporation, Nagar Panchayat, these are there. So we find that there are various levels of government in our country. The central government at the highest level, in every state there is state government, and at the grassroots level there is local self-government. So a country where there are various levels of government, we call it a federal country, and the responsibilities are clearly written in the Indian Constitution. The responsibilities, the role to be played by the central government, the functions of the state government, and how the Panchayati Raj system will run, everything is clearly written. By 74th Amendment Act, by 75 Amendment number 75, all those 73rd Amendment, 73rd and especially 74th Amendment, these two amendments has included the local self-government in the Indian Constitution. So we find clearly the division of power among the various levels of government. Moreover, there is distribution of power between the central and the state government through three lists which are incorporated in the Indian Constitution. Because a federal country needs the power distribution. What are those three lists? The union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Each and every list contains certain subject matters. Say for example defense, or currency, or foreign affairs. These are included in the central list. About these matters, only the central government can make laws in the central legislature, that is parliament. Other matters, agriculture, irrigation, education, like these subjects are there in the state list. The state government can make laws on the subjects mentioned in the state list. And from the concurrent list, both the central and the state government can make laws. So these power distribution are mentioned in the Indian Constitution by means of three lists, which is an important feature of federalism, and automatically it becomes one of the key feature of the Indian Constitution. The third important feature is parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary form of government is another important feature of the Indian Constitution. The question is, why parliamentary system is adopted in our country? There are other forms of government also found around the country. Say for example, if you talk about USA, we find there presidential form of government. Whereas in our country, we find parliamentary form of government. Actually, colonial rulers ruled in our country for a long period of time. There is an impact of the British rule over here, and in England there is parliamentary form of government. So accordingly, the influence also affected here, and moreover, the nation builders expected that if we want to establish democracy in true sense, then from the whole country the representatives should assemble in the central legislature and they can express their views, demands, shortcomings. That is the reason the parliamentary form of government has been adopted in our country. And of course, another important feature is universal adult franchise. Universal adult franchise is another important feature of the Indian Constitution. The representatives of the country are being elected by the adult people, means those who are 18 years and above, from around the country. The country is divided into various constituencies. A constituency is a political division. On the basis of population, the country is divided into various constituencies, and from each and every constituency, one representative is elected by majority vote. And accordingly, any political party which wins the majority number of seats, they form the government. So ultimately, universal adult franchise becomes the most important key element for the democracy, and which has been incorporated in the Indian Constitution. For the establishment of true democracy, universal adult franchise is most important, which is one of the important key feature of the Indian Constitution. Then the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights. It is one of the most important part of the Indian Constitution. The incorporation of fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution. Let us see in detail what are the fundamental rights which are incorporated in the Indian Constitution. This is point number 5. This is point number 5 feature, that fundamental rights. Fundamental rights which are incorporated in the Indian Constitution. What are those fundamental rights which are included in our Constitution? Let us see. First one is right to equality. Right to equality. Article number 14 to 18. Article number 14 to 18 of the Indian Constitution has included right to equality. What type of equality we are talking about? Means all the people, irrespective of caste, creed, gender, community, place of birth, religion, all will be equal before the law. Equal punishment will be given for the similar crime. There must not be any discrimination on the basis of caste, gender, religion, etc. So that is right to equality. Another feature of this right to equality is that while getting the public facilities, no discrimination can be made on such matters of caste, gender, religion and all. Public facilities are there for all. No discrimination is allowed here. So that also another feature of right to equality. Second one, right to freedom. Right to freedom. Article number 19 to 22. Article number 19 to 22 of the Indian Constitution contains right to freedom. What type of freedom we are talking about? Here freedom means freedom of expression of your thoughts, ideas, faith, beliefs. You have the freedom to express your ideas. Whatever you feel about the ongoing political or socio-economic system, you can express your views. No one can forbid you from making your comments, making your expression, and we must remember that the freedom of press, media is very important here. No one has any right to oppress the freedom of press or media. So that is right to freedom. The third fundamental right is right against exploitation. Right against exploitation. Which articles contain this right against exploitation? Article number 23 and 24. You have to remember these article numbers. Right against exploitation. One important feature of this right against exploitation is that no child below 14 years can be engaged in any industrial activities or hazardous activities where there is risk of life. Because a child of 14 years is not trained enough for any industrial activity, and that is the reason that this article right against exploitation is incorporated in the Indian Constitution. We have to remember the article numbers also, that is 23 and 24. These articles of the Indian Constitution have been incorporated to provide right against exploitation, means no child below 14 years can be engaged in any industrial activities or any hazardous activities where there is life risk. So that is right against exploitation. The next one is right to freedom of religion. Right to freedom of religion. Article number 25 to 28. One of the most important part of the Indian Constitution. What is this right to freedom of religion? India is a secular country. Every person has the right to express his or her religious freedom. Okay. So article number 25 to 28 incorporates right to freedom of religion. So like that, other fundamental rights are there, cultural and educational rights, right of constitutional remedies, which is a very important one. If anybody's rights are violated, you can claim those rights through the judicial procedure. Hope you have got the point. We have discussed enough about the features of the Indian Constitution. Why do we need the Constitution? Hope you have enjoyed the class. Thank you for watching. Bye all of you.